So the 10,000 unit need is the number that's taking us up to this 140% count column here. But you see that this chart also includes AMIs up to 180%. So sometimes you hear people talk about 10,000 units is the need. Sometimes you hear 13,000 units. This is where that 13,000 unit number comes from right here. And it includes units from 30% AMI up into 100% AMI. This chart also shows that the need in the different AMI categories is spread pretty evenly across the board. So I wanted to point that out because in some circles and some discussions that we have, you know, people talk about how what's affordable and what's not affordable. And I think we lean to the discussion that the higher AMI production is not necessary, but it is. The need for housing is across the board. This chart also shows that the need for home ownership units versus rental units is about even as well. This section of my presentation talks about AMI, but I think this group is pretty well versed in what area median income is. So unless you have any questions about this, I'm going to move on. I like to share this chart because when I talk to particular groups, those who are not really familiar with area median income and what the income level for those categories are, you know, this is a really helpful chart. This is a chart that actually comes from that we use to administer our Chapter 11, the Affordable Housing Code. And it's packed full of information you can see because it does identify income levels by AMI. And it also talks about what the sales price in those categories are. Finished lots for sale prices are in the middle here. And then rent guidelines are at the bottom here. And I'm not going to dwell on this because I think this group is pretty well versed in these numbers. This is something that I really like to share because it kind of talks about where the Office of Housing and this county is at with regard to our progress in affordable housing development. And I want to make sure this group is clear that the numbers that I'm reflecting here are only affordable housing unit numbers where the Office of Housing is engaged with developers. So they've come in for assistance. They're utilizing some of our tools, maybe coming in for funding, or the project has triggered Chapter 11. So there could be housing projects out there in the market that I've not reflected here. So these are only the number of units that the Office of Housing has been significantly playing a role. But when we came on board, this administration came on board in 2020, there were about 1,200 housing units, projects that were in the pipeline. And, you know, I wanted to point out that development projects, and I know there's a bunch of developers on this call with us as well, it takes a handful of years at best to get a project from acquiring the land to finish, to get your funding and all of that in place. And that's barring any kinds of issues, right, with the development project. If projects were not already in the pipeline when we came on board, the likelihood of us seeing those units in the marketplace within the next couple of years is very slim. I feel that the Office of Housing, what our charge is to really focus on working with developers and getting projects viable to the point where, and pack this pipeline as full of projects as we possibly can. We probably won't see those units coming onto market, maybe not even within this administration's period, but I think it's our responsibility to work as hard as we can to get projects viable up and running so that this county will begin to see the effects of what we've done maybe in the administrations to come, right? So in any case, there were 1,200 units in the pipeline when we walked on board. There were approximately 154 units that have completed construction so far since we've been here. We currently now have about 5,100 affordable housing units in the pipeline. So we've made significant progress to getting projects up and running. Of the 5,100 units, we're probably going to see, you know, this 286 unit number here has changed slightly as well, because one of the projects that we were counting in this number is going to be delayed. And this is the kind of thing that happens. So instead of 286 units that we were expecting to see by the end of this year, it's probably going to be closer to 200. But, you know, those are the kinds of changes that we see throughout, right, when we're working with projects.